is an artist and can see shapes and colors in a way that nobody else can. It's a good thing that Claudia is creative because she's not the world's best student. She's an especially bad speller, and just to make things worse, she has incredibly brainy older sister named Janine. Janine is the type of girl who sits around doing quadratic equations for fun. Honest. Ugh. But back to the story. I glanced around Christy Thomas's bedroom and saw that all 6 of my friends were experimenting with lipstick and nail polish. A few of them, like Stacy McGrill, were even trying out new hairstyles. It was sort of a mass makeover, and there was a lot of giggling going on. And some of the befores looked better than the afters, if you know what I mean. I guess I should stop right here and introduce everybody before I tell you anything else about the sleepover at Christie's. First of all, the 7 of us are members of the Babysitters Club, or BSC, which I'll explain later. My name is Dawn Schaefer, and I am the alternate officer of the club. I live in Stony Brook, Connecticut, and I am 13 years old. My friends just say I look like a California girl with my long, blonde hair and sparkly blue eyes. This makes sense since I lived in California before my parents got divorced and my mom and my brother Jeff and I moved to Stony Brook. Now, Jeff lives in California again with my father. He just wasn't happy in Connecticut. And sometimes I go back to visit. What else would you like to know? Well, I love the outdoors. I'm a vegetarian, and I try to eat a healthy diet. Unlike Claudia, who thinks gummy bears are nature's perfect food. Claudia is a beautiful, dramatic-looking Japanese American who loves exotic clothes. She's also the vice president of the BSC. Claudia is one of those people who can wear anything and get away with it. Today, for example, she had stuck to 2 colors, black and white. Black cotton bib overalls over a white turtleneck with a shiny black patent leather belt loop around her waist. Black suede ankle boots and white cotton socks. Long black hair swept off her face and giant white plastic barrettes. Anyone else would look like a penguin in that getup, but Claudia looked great. What do you think? She asked, holding up a white hoop earring next to her face. Too much? Question mark. I nodded, maybe a little. The earring was the size of a doorknob. Hey, Dawn, will you take a look at my hair? Asked Marianne. Marianne Spire is my stepsister. My mother married Richard, her father, and she is also my best friend. Marianne is a lot less daring with clothes and makeup than I am, but she has grown up quite a bit in the past year. When I first met Marianne, she looked like a little girl. She was wearing little girl clothes, and worst of all, she was wearing her brown hair in 2 long pigtails. Awful. When I got to know her better, I realized that she's really sweet and very sensitive, and she dressed that way because her father picked out her clothes. See? Marianne's mother died when Marianne was just a baby, and she has boyfriends sometimes, but no steady ones. She's an only child and grew up in New York City until her father's company transferred him to Connecticut. The McGills had lived in Stony Brook for a year when her father was sent back to New York. We all said tearful goodbyes to Stacy and wondered if we would ever see her again. About a year later, Stacy's parents got divorced, and Stacy and her mom returned to Connecticut. Talk about a complicated life. Stacy still seems like a New York girl at heart, just like I am a California girl at heart, and whenever she visits her father in New York whenever she can. Just to add to Stacy's problems, she has a severe form of diabetes. She's very careful about what she eats and knows how to give herself insulin shots every day. Diabetes is something she has to live with, but at least she can keep it under control. The main thing she has to remember is not to eat sweets. Just imagine a life without sugar and candy, and you'll get the idea. At first, we tried not to have cookies or things lying around where she could see them, but we found out that Stacy had a lot of self-control. She doesn't eat those things because she could get really sick. Well, it's finished, Stacy said. She put down the brush and reached for an apple. The rest of us were munching on fudge, except for me, too unhealthy. But that's off limits for Stacy, of course. I appreciate it. I really do, Marian said earnestly. I knew that Marian would never wear her hair that way again, but she managed to look as if she were thrilled with her new style. I'll be glad to do it for you anytime, Stacy said. The thing to remember is to use a little bit of gel, and she stopped talking suddenly and sat down on Christy's bed. Are you okay? Christy Thomas asked. Christy Thomas is the president of the Babysitters Club, and she is a take charge sort of person. I'm fine, Stacy said lightly. She put her hand up to her forehead, just for a second, as though she had a headache. You look a little pale, Christy said, peering at her. I remembered that Stacy hadn't felt well for the past few days. Hey, I'm fine, really. Stacy bounced right back on her feet and picked up her styled brush. I think I just got a little dizzy from all the hairspray, she said with a smile. Maybe we should go get some air in here. Good idea, as usual. Christy took command of the situation and marched over to the nearest window. Sometimes I get a little annoyed because Christy tends to be bossy. Wait till you see her at the club meeting and you'll understand. But I have to admit she really gets things done. It's funny because in some ways Christy seems a little younger than she met a millionaire named Watson Brewer, and they married, and the Thomases moved across town into this mansion. It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? Watson Brewer has 2 children, Karen, who has turned 7, and Andrew, who is 4. So Christy found herself with a new brother and sister. They only live with their father every other weekend, and polite to look shocked, though, and I thought I could drop through the floor when he reached across the table and shook my hand. No one my age shakes hands, do they? But somehow it seemed just right when Travis did it. I could feel a little ripple of excitement go through the group, even though most of us were busily staring at our toes and wishing we were on another planet. There was this incredibly long silence while everybody waited for someone to think of something to say, and Travis and I just stood and stared at each other. Without thinking, I blurted out the first words that came to my mind. "Is that granola you're eating?" Not the brightest remark in the world, but you have to realize that this was a crisis situation. Think how you would have felt if it happened. If you happened to be wearing a tattered old nightgown and a 3 sizes too big terry robe at a time like this. It was enough to make anyone tongue-tied. "That's right," Travis said easily. "It's practically the state food in California." So he was from California. "Why don't you join us?" He gestured to an empty seat beside him, and it was all I could do not to throw myself into it. Then I remembered my shiny face and morning breath, and I decided against it. "Oh, well, we'll get something to eat later," I said, trying to sound totally cool and in command of the situation. I wasn't in control at all, and my heart was beating like a rabbit's. "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day," he said, teasingly. "I know that," I replied, nodding. If he wanted to talk nutrition, that was fine with me. Mom and I were fanatics about eating healthy food, and we even make our own breakfast cereal. Christy, as usual, took charge. "I really think we should be heading back upstairs," she said firmly. "Yeah, that's right," Claudia said, stepping sideways towards the door. "Without having breakfast," Sam said, looking amused as if he knew exactly what they were up to. Claudia shrugged and pushed her long black hair out of her face. "Well, actually, we ocean, and I used to go for long walks on the beach every night after dinner. You did? We didn't live on the ocean, but I used to take long walks too. I was so excited I nearly dropped my apple. Have you ever met someone and felt like you always known this person? That was the way I felt about Travis. There's a place just above Malibu Travis began, and when the sun sets, it looks like it's dropping right into the ocean. I know, I went there once. I felt almost giddy. Travis and I had talked non-stop for the next half hour. And I had never met anyone whose feelings were so close to my own. We could have been twins. You know, you should always wear blue, Travis said, gently touching my sleeve. It brings out the color of your eyes, just like the ocean. What an unbelievable morning. I couldn't get Travis off my mind for the rest of the day, and I practically drove Marianne crazy talking about him. Marianne, do you believe in love at first sight? I asked her the minute we were back home. I think so, she said slowly. Look at your father and my mother. I think they fell in love at first sight in high school. It's just that it took them all this time to get together. Remember that romantic story I promised to tell you about our parents? This is it. My mom dated Marianne's father in high school. We didn't know this when I first moved to Stony Brook, and they went steady. They were madly in love with each other, but here comes the sad part. My grandparents, my mom's mother and father, disapproved of Marianne's father and didn't want my mom to keep dating him. Why? Because he didn't have a lot of money. My mom comes from a wealthy family, and I guess they always thought she would marry someone rich. I'm glad to say that the story has a happy ending. My mom and Richard did find each other again, with a little help from Marianne and me. And now they are happily married, and we all live in my house. I had to ask another question. Marianne, I said, what did you think of Travis? Don't you think he's the most gorgeous boy you've ever seen? Travis. She looked at me suspiciously. Dawn, you're not going to get some kind of hopeless crush on him, are you? A hopeless crush? I was insulted. Of course not, I said still.